Obviously, there are two ongoing wars, serious, dangerous, bloody, costly wars that the United States is funding with billions of dollars, not just funding, but heavily involved in operationally. One of them is the war in Gaza, waged by Israel, financed by the Biden administration, armed by the Biden administration, diplomatically protected by the Biden administration. It's now going on for a year and 3 months, no end in sight. By all accounts, it has been the worst humanitarian war in decades. Not just in terms of the number of civilians is killed, the number of children is killed, but the destruction of all civilian infrastructure, making Gaza basically inhabitable, ethnic cleansing, mass starvation, deliberate campaigns of hunger, collective punishment. It's a historically sickening war waged by Israel. And Trump has said he wants it to end, but what that means is unclear because he is, if nothing else, the one thing all of his appointees have in common is that they are fanatical Israel supporters. From RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth, to Marco Rubio and Elise Stefanik, and Mike Huckabee, every single one of them. There's not a peep of dissent on Israel, not in the Secretary of Agriculture, not in the Secretary of Interior or Labor. And one of his biggest donors, his biggest one, in fact, after Elon Musk, was Miri Madelshin. We did a whole show on her. Her only issue, the only one she cares about, is having the U.S. do everything possible to support Israel and all of its aspirations. And that doesn't just include destroying Gaza, but also expanding its territory in the West Bank, annexing it, annexing Gaza, annexing parts of Lebanon, and now parts of Syria as well. Here from Al Jazeera, December 8th, Israel grabs land in Syria's Golan Heights, warned villagers to stay home. Quote, Israel forces also bomb weapons depots in southern Syria and the capital Damascus, Israeli media reports. So just in the last month, Israel has seized major parts of Syria and have proclaimed it to be Israeli territory. So it's an expansionist war, it's a destabilizing war, it's a bloody war, it's a war that's making people in the Middle East hate Israel, hate the United States even more. How Trump handles that, it looks by all accounts that he's going to give the green light to Netanyahu to do anything and everything he wants, which basically is what Biden did as well, will be very significant. Here from the United Nations Human Rights Organization, just to give you a sense for the extremity of what this war has become, Israel's assault on the foundations of international law must have consequences, say UN experts. Quote, indiscriminate attacks, including on shelters for displaced persons and the Kamal Adwan hospital and its vicinity, and the intensification of siege conditions on northern Gaza for the last 3 months run contrary to Israel's legal duty to ensure the protection of the civilian population, the experts said. Quote, we are disturbed with this siege, coupled with expanding evacuation orders, appears intended to permanently displace the local population as a precursor to Gaza's annexation in further violation of international law. So here's Trump, elected on a platform to keep America out of wars that don't directly threaten American territory, saying that we can't continue to fund other people's wars, saying that about the war in Ukraine, but not only not saying that about the war in Israel, but saying that the United States has to do everything it can to advance Israeli interests. He's even threatened Hamas and said, we're going to destroy you if you don't give back the hostages. He's threatened Iran, saying we may have to go and bomb Iran's nuclear facilities. In fact, when Israel was considered bombing Iran, its nuclear facilities or its critical petroleum infrastructure, Trump said, yeah, go ahead and bomb its nuclear infrastructure, despite how obviously risky that is, giving Iran's power and reach in the region. Here is Trump on Hugh Hewitt's show in April of 2024, talking about exactly these issues.
Well, that's all the advice you can give. I mean, that's the advice. You got to get it over with, and you have to get back to normalcy. And I'm not sure that I'm loving the way they're doing it, because you got to have victory. You have to have a victory. And it's taking a long time. And the other thing is, I hate they put out tapes all the time. Every night they're releasing tapes of a building falling down. They shouldn't be releasing tapes like that. That's why they're losing the PR war. Israel is absolutely losing the PR war.
That's how I read your interview. I read your interview as saying they're losing the PR war. They've got to stop releasing bad video and win the war by going into Rafah.
They're releasing the most heinous, most horrible tapes of buildings falling down. And people are imagining there's a lot of people in those buildings or people in those buildings. and they don't like it. And I don't know why they release, wartime shots like that. I guess it makes them look tough. But to me, it doesn't make them look tough. They're losing the PR war, and they're losing it big. But they've got to finish what they started, and they got to finish it fast, and we have to get on with life.
So there is certainly a more mixed message than anything Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or their top national security officials were saying. He's clearly irritated with what Israel is doing. He made that very clear. He said it's pretty stupid for these Israeli soldiers and the IDF to constantly post these videos of this sadistic, gratuitous destruction, collapsing residential buildings, putting it on the internet. He's like, they think it makes them look tough. I don't think it makes them look tough. There's a lot of animosity toward Israel there. And he definitely had some personal conflict with Netanyahu, for sure, during his administration. But at the same time, that first administration was probably the most pro-Israel presidency in the history of the United States. Trump himself boasted about that, about how the Adelsons would come to the White House more than anybody else, demand something for Israel. He would give it to them. They'd come right back. They'd demand more. He would give it to them again. And even during the campaign, Trump vowed, when speaking to an American Jewish group, a right-wing Jewish group, he said, we're going to make America great again. We're also going to make Israel great again. Imagine running on a platform of America First and saying, we're going to make this foreign country great again. That's what my administration is going to be about, at least one of the things. And obviously, the people in Israel heard that, because here was a big billboard after Trump won in Jerusalem that was on the front page of of Haaretz, but also other media outlets, that read, quote, "Congratulations, Trump, make Israel great again." And there you see Israel great underneath it, kind of broken out, and then you see the American flag and the Israeli flag merged with pictures of Donald Trump. So there are a lot of major supporters, major contributors of Trump who are expecting him to prioritize the interest of Israel. And notice he's saying, I want the war over, but he's saying Israel has to go in and end it. Presumably meaning even more destruction. He's saying, I want the war over with, not in the sense that he wants the Russia-Ukraine war over with. Obviously, no one thinks that war is going to end with the expulsion of Russian troops from Ukrainian soil, but he's saying, I want it over with, meaning they have to do even more. So it's a very mixed bag. I don't think it can get worse than what the Biden administration was. It might get better. But there's a lot of conflict about the America First ideology and how America is so devoted to the interests of Israel. But I would say the vast majority of his base, not all of it by any means, but the vast majority, both the more traditionalists and the more populists, for a variety of reasons, are just as devoted to Israel as he is. And that seems unlikely to create the kind of internal tensions that other issues, the ones that we've already covered, will. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.